her books that we're going to discuss with you shortly, Satin Lounge, The Adventures of Eroticism. What's interesting, what I find interesting about your stories is the poetry and the stories that you create. They make the listener or the reader the subject of them.
Yes.
You know, they become the one experiencing the touching and the tasting and so forth. Was that technique on purpose?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of women grew up reading, the soft porn, the romance novels, the erotica when they're in their teens and early 20s and what have you, and they see Abigail and she's being ravished by whomever.
Yes.
But you can't ever imagine yourself as Abigail. And when I started writing stories for myself.
Okay.
Just to make, to help my creative energy come out. So I would write stories for myself, about myself, and then I started expanding on that. Someone found a notebook that I had and was like, hey, these are pretty good. And said, hey, can you write one for me? And I thought about, can I write a story like that for someone else? And yeah. So it grew from there, and I felt like if I wanted to know what it felt like to imagine myself in these stories, others would too. And so far it's done pretty well. People say, hey, I read that one story, it made me want to take a train ride because I felt like I was already on the train, so.
The imagery is fantastic. You can hear the waterfalls, you can see the sunset, you can see the silhouette of the person you're speaking of. I mean, there's a lot going on in these stories. Satin Lounge, if you're anything like me, you're kind of attracted to sensuality. You're kind of attracted to the stories of the forbidden, the taboo, all levels of who we are.
Absolutely.
Do you think that sexuality is fluid? Do you think that there's really such a thing as gay and straight? Is there some lesbian that there's some man that could absolutely turn her out, or some man who there's another man, a heterosexual man that a gay man could absolutely turn him out? Is it fluid?
Yes, absolutely. And I've seen examples of it.
You have?
I've seen examples of a woman who spent her entire life as a lesbian, never had a man touch her, and then she met someone who was her best friend, and they spent time together, and the next thing you know, they wanted to have a baby together, and they became a couple. She still loved women, but she enjoyed him because she fell in love. And I believe the sexuality is tied very closely with the feelings of love and the emotions that are involved in a relationship that have nothing to do with the sex. So when it comes down to gays and lesbians who label themselves as lesbian or gay, that's fantastic. But if I look at someone and I think, oh my gosh, that is the sexiest being I've ever seen, that's how I see them.
Does it get confusing sometimes? It's been discussed that it's taboo. When you start thinking of orgies and threesomes and menage a trois and twins and so forth, does it ever
don't knock twins. I've had twins several times, and they're great.
Does it ever get confusing, though? If it's in the lane of sex, then it's not as confusing. But when people say they're in relationships with more than one person at a time, does that ever get confusing?
No.
Why is that not confusing?
I am in a polyamorous relationship.
Polyamorous. Can you define polyamorous, please?
Polyamorous is multiple love.
Okay.
So that is not gender specific. It is multiple love. Now, most polyamorous relationships you see are on television is the man that has the 3 wives or the 4 wives or something along those lines, the Mormons or what have you. But polyamorous relationships are couples or groups of people who just love each other, period. And those relationships are committed. They are an understanding. They are loving. They are open. There are rules with it, to make sure that everyone is safe.
Rules like what? Rules like what?
Just to make sure that everyone is safe, discussing if, you're going to have a sexual encounter with someone outside of the polyamorous relationship, it has to be discussed with everyone in the relationship. So supposing myself, my wife, and our girlfriend decide, hey, my girlfriend wants to sleep with another woman, we'd have to, as a group, meet her, talk to her, get to know her before we're comfortable, because it protects all of us in the relationship.
Wow, that's Immani. That's a lot going on for me. That's wow. That's wow.
It is a lot, and that's why it's not spoken about a lot, because it is confusing for some people. How can you love one person? If you're married to someone, how can you love someone else easily if you open your heart? So...
But then, too, sometimes if you're in a monogamous relationship, they say that sometimes sex gets boring or you're used to the same routine or whatever. When you're polyamorous, is it a cop-out that you can just change the flavor of the ice cream every few minutes?
No.
Is it? I mean, some people may look at it like that. What do you say when people say that?
In polyamorous relationships, there is always a primary relationship.
Okay, so
there's always a primary relationship. That primary couple decides that they want to invite someone else into their relationship.
Okay. Are they doing it to spice up the relationship, or are they doing it because they both have,
needs?
Needs.
It could be either reason. It could be either reason. Some polyamorous couples do invite someone in just to add spice. Others really just want that kind of feeling of love from more than one person. They enjoy having, 2 or 3 women or men in their home, around them, in their lives, to spend time with and enjoy.
Well, we have to take a break, but this is so fascinating to me, Immani. When we come back, I do want to talk a bit more about couples and I guess couples in all varieties. Maybe we can find out how important sex is to a relationship, and of course get into share some of the collections of her poetry and erotic stories that are available for download right now. Just to give you a taste, Satin Lounge, I'd like to play a piece, Immani, from your CD entitled Immani Love, Sensually Speaking. Satin Lounge, this one is called I'm Not a Writer. We'll be back with more of the Satin Lounge with KiaRene. Keep it locked.
I am not a writer, but I have a vivid imagination, a knack for putting it into words, and the words on paper. I can take you on trips to foreign lands, dining in the finest restaurants, and shopping in the most glamorous stores without spending a dime. I can get into your mind and stay there for days, weeks, and months at a time. I'm not a writer, but I can finesse you, caress you, undress you, molest you, ingest you, and digest you without ever touching your skin. I can lick your nipples, suck your toes, and make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. I can suck your clit and finger you until you cry from the multiple orgasms that I provide. I can put you in more positions than the freakiest porno flick, and we've never even met. My paper is my bed, my pen is my tongue, and my words are my sex toys, and I will fuck you as long as you want me to. I am not a writer, but I am a woman who loves words, an adoring fan of the alphabet,